that's about to take place and about what we all have in common, or the latest stories that we haven't shared with each other, because some of us in the room know each other. But I want to get your attention and just introduce the meeting, introduce the speaker, and if you don't know, introduce myself. I'm John. I'm the director of the Beaver Watershed Alliance, and we carry out programming in the Beaver Lake Watershed to help keep the water quality clean as it flows off of people's land into the streams that fill Beaver Lake. And the project that Courtney's going to be talking about tonight, the West Fork Watershed Opportunity Assessment, is one such project that involves working with the community to get information in the watershed, to educate people to know what's good for water quality, to help people do things that are beneficial for water quality, and then also identify things that would be great for water quality, but they have a high cost, and so people kind of shy away from trying to do something about that. And so that's what the meeting is tonight. And Courtney Thomas is the outreach coordinator for the Beaver Watershed Alliance. Many of you that are here have contacted her to RSVP. Some of you have had her out to your property to help you with conservation measures and volunteering for stream cleanup. So you know her already, but if you don't know her, she's done a great job for the Beaver Watershed Alliance, even though she's from Texas and California before that. That's our internal joke. Always like to tease her. But we are blessed to have her here. She has really created outreach. This project that she's been carrying out is excellent, but it can be better. And the way it can be better is with your input tonight. And so with that, I'll get out of the way and introduce Courtney to come up here and go ahead and talk about the West Fork Watershed Opportunity.
All right. I think this is the first time I've gotten an introduction and rounds of applause before starting. So, yeah, starting off on the right track here tonight to say it all. First, I just want to say thank you to each and every one of you for coming out to this meeting tonight. We really appreciate your interest and support and desire to learn more about the watershed and water quality of Beaver Lake, and how you can, improve it, make it better, and to give us feedback on our programs. So thank you all for coming out tonight. We appreciate it. So like John said, we work for the Beaver Watershed Alliance. We're a nonprofit organization that was established in 2010, and we work to maintain and protect and improve the quality of water in Beaver Lake, the drinking water source for 1 in 7 Arkansans, over 400,000 people in our region. So it's really important for the health, quality of life, and economic development of our area. And so we do that through voluntary outreach programs, encouraging the implementation of best management practices for landowners, and also through technical and scientific investigation. So we work to accomplish our goal through restoring the water quality of impaired streams. Since the streams are flowing into Beaver Lake, everything that they're carrying ends up in the lake. So if we can work on restoring the quality of the source of the pollution, then that will help us maintain a long-lasting, high-quality lake. And like I said, we work with, on voluntary projects, voluntarily with landowners, and just work to educate the public really about water quality in our area and things that people can do, kind of the most important issues to work towards, and how everyone can affect water quality positively and negatively, and that we all have a role to play in that process, which is why we want to work with everybody. We think it's really important to bring together a diverse group of stakeholders. In fact, John and I and my coworker Ben answered to 20-person board made up of 20 people from diverse stakeholder groups in the 4 counties that the watershed is mostly made up of. So that's really important to our programs, to our mission, and the way that we do our work. All right, so here's the big picture Beaver Lake Watershed, and you can see that it's divided into 7 sub-watersheds This is the entire area that we're working in, and several of these cities, that are partly in the watershed and get their drinking water from Beaver Lake. And here's the West Fork of the White River watershed. This is one of the 7 sub-watersheds in Beaver, and made up of 4 different cities, 5 different communities, really. So we've been conducting these meetings in those 5 communities to reach people, different communities. Every different community has slightly different concerns. Fayetteville is more urban than, Winslow, so the concerns, the water quality issues are going to be different. So we're trying to figure out what each of those community sub-watershed needs are. So the West Fork Opportunity Assessment is this project that's been going on for about 9 months now. It started in September, and we held a group of initial meetings to tell people about our project, and then have been working with landowners and different stakeholders since then. So our goal is to develop a series of maps that show the water quality improvement opportunities and priorities, and where we've been working with landowners who's interested in being involved and participating in our program, so that we can ultimately work on improvement projects to improve the water quality of the West Fork of the White River and Beaver Lake. So we're combining data, we're adding to data that was already researched and kind of established by the Fayetteville Natural Heritage Association and the Watershed Conservation Resource Center, ABQ. So, through this program, we're accomplishing it by working with landowners, conducting site visits, and just engaging people that live in the watershed, and kind of taking inventory of, what their opportunities and areas of concern are, so that we can make this map and really pinpoint opportunities to make water quality improvements. So we've been connecting with landowners through site visits, encouraging them to voluntarily use management practices, and to connect them with resources to really, help them achieve their goals, do something that's good for their land and their property, while also doing something that's good for the water quality of the river. Why would we be doing this in West Fork? Why are we starting here, the West Fork watershed? Well, this is a map of impaired rivers, listed impaired by the ABQ, and here you can see, this is the Beaver Lake watershed is just part of this map, and the West Fork of the White River is listed as impaired for sediment, and it's just one of the really priority areas for us to work in, and so we wanted to start there and work on this priority area. And our goal is to do similar work to what we're doing here, taking inventory and assessments in each of the 7 sub-watersheds. And so we're starting out right now in the West Fork. This is one of the maps that we're building our data on. This was made by the Watershed Conservation Resource Center, and showing the priority areas for stream restoration projects along the West Fork River. So some of these, a few years old, some of these have already been completed. This is kind of what we're starting out with, that we wanted to add on, other opportunities, other areas of erosion, and participating landowners. So here's the first map that was created. All of these maps are drafts, they're not complete. And so one of the purposes of this meeting is to receive input and feedback from you all, so that we can continue to build on these maps and make for a stronger program. This is just showing community input and needs based on our meetings that we had in the fall, our initial project meetings. So you can see, like I said, every community is a little bit different. Winslow identified, that they have a desire to conserve waterfall along the river down there, as well as address some stream erosion at their park. And so we were able to help give them resources to address that erosion problem. That's something that we wouldn't have known about if they hadn't come to our meeting and told us about that, invited us out to the property so that we could see it and really come up with a plan and make it happen. there are a lot of concerns with invasive species removal and trash removal from trash, washing in, running off during the storm into the stream. Also have opportunities and interest in the conservation of Mount Kessler. And you can see in green, these shaded green areas are participating landowners. So this is just showing kind of an overall result of our project. Participating landowners, interests and specific concerns, as well as these opportunities or priority areas for stream bank restoration projects. So we talk about best management practices, and I'm about to show a map of those also. So here's just a list of some of these best management practices that people do on their property to improve water quality. It can really be anything as simple as a soil test. So you're soil testing your property, your garden, your pasture, whatever, so that you can determine what type of fertilizer and how much fertilizer you should be putting down. And the goal of that is really to, save people money and reduce the amount of fertilizer that's being used. People have a tendency to over-fertilize, but if they know how much fertilizer they need and what type, then they can put that down and not have excess that's running off into the river. So that's just a really small thing that people can do. Other things are planting trees and grasses and shrubs to increase the riparian buffer zone along the river, bank, as well as reforesting their property. Pasture renovation is another best management practice that people can use. Some big major projects can be like a stream restoration or even a stabilization, once again to reduce that erosion sediment going into the stream. Installing rain gardens to catch stormwater runoff and filter that water and prevent it from running off and carrying pollutants into the river, managing forests, for farmers, updating nutrient management plans. These are just some of the practices that people can do on their property, but there are many more that aren't necessarily on this list. And so here are a few pictures of practices that have taken place or are going to take place in the future or opportunities to take place through this project. So here you can see some of our employees and partners from the Game and Fish Commission measuring, doing a survey at a property down in Brentwood to put together a plan for restoration. That we've identified a landowner who is interested in a stream restoration on this property. And so, we went out to the site visit, and then we were able to bring someone else in who had the knowledge and skills to put together a plan for it. This is Slipper Falls down in Winslow. They're interested in conserving that area. Here we have some volunteers planting trees to enhance the riparian buffer for a woman who has property in Westport. We planted an acre of riparian buffer for her on her property. That was a big project. It was about 300 trees. And here's a pasture aerator, which can be used to renovate pasture to increase the uptake of nutrients in the soil and water filtration and reduce the runoff of water carrying those nutrients into the river. Here are a couple more. This is Peaks Park in Winslow, where they're experiencing erosion, installing rain gardens, we said earlier, and also doing stream cleanups. We have landowners tell us that they pull trash out of the river, or people coming out and participating in our stream cleanups. This is a group of really awesome high school students from Greenland that their group comes out every year to participate in our Westport cleanup, and they're just always ready to do work, and it's really awesome to see these youth getting involved, being active and caring about their area, their community, and their water service. So here's a map of the conservation actions, and this also isn't complete. We have more to add to it. This is just showing some, particular actions that have been implemented along the river and in the watershed. So we have reforestation being involved, invasive invasive removal up here around Fayetteville also, some stream restorations that are taking place or people that are interested in those projects. And once again, the participating landowners outlined shaded here in green. And this is a really similar map. It just also shows the stream restoration priorities along the river also, and showing that some of these have been completed down here in Brentwood, and then the Drake Field restoration site was just recently completed. And then they're working on a project up here in Fayetteville. There's also a project that will be taking place at Mount Kessler, stream coming off on the south side of Mount Kessler in the Fayetteville City, the soon-to-be Fayetteville City Park. They have plans out there. So then the next couple of maps are showing priorities for best management practices for pasture. So all the shaded areas here are pasture in Watershed, and the darker areas are just a higher priority based on the slope and soil type of these pastures. And then these stars are just showing some of the participating landowners who have either used the pasture aerator on their property or are interested in using the aerator on their property. And this map is just a lot more detailed, showing pretty similar information. The outlined in yellow are those priority pasture areas, and it's just showing the pasture slope differences along in the watershed. So now is the part of the meeting program where I want to ask y'all's input. And seeing these maps, we presented our data and initial project results to you, and I just want to know if there are opportunities that we don't have identified on here, or if y'all have any questions. Yes, Barbara.
One that occurred to me for Fayetteville is that because there's so much construction going on, that best management practices envelop small-scale and large-scale construction.
Okay.
Help mitigate the silting of the
Sure, okay.
I think in a lot of cases, enforcement is a big deal on that. What you're talking about there, probably enforcing whatever the best practices are is probably a big deal.
So maybe coming up with some sort of program to encourage or incentivize people for using best management practices. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Well, it's easy to see if you go around to a lot of the construction around. You can see when it rains, major runoff happening and things like that. So they probably know what they should do, but whether or not they're doing it, that's probably the big issue. Would be mine. When you said that listed as impaired, what exactly is the impaired element of that? As far as
It's for sediment in the river and degraded fish habitat.
okay.
That's what it's for.
Okay.
And we're trying to remove the river, these parts of the river, from that impaired rivers list. Especially if we can identify specific places on the river that are in better or worse condition, then we can know where to focus, our energy and resources and projects to those areas.
Does that typically work from a top-down kind of thing? Is usually the top better than the closer to Fayetteville, or is that?
So by top, you mean like upstream and headwaters? I would say in general that can you want to speak up? Okay, John's going to add a little bit to my presentation.
The reason is because I looked at data that she hadn't seen yet.
Yeah.
And in general, can you look at the river and generally say that the upstream part of the river has better quality than the downstream? I would say absolutely. You can look at the upstream part of the river and you can see that the water quality is better, although the way water looks is not a good way to judge its quality. back to the historic report, you can still find smallmouth bass in the upper part of the river. And until recently, they couldn't be found in the lower part around the airport very much. Although somebody's already telling stories about catching a 2-pound smallmouth at the restoration site. So I'll have to look into that. But according to water quality, the measurement of sediment in the river is turbidity. And the turbidity, according to 1 month of sampling, the lower part of the river, the last 4 to 5 miles, has a higher turbidity than the rest of the river, no doubt. There's a big difference. And one question we have is if it's natural due to the change in the slope of the river from being in the mountains to the valley, or if it's because of geology and soil, maybe in the valley than in the mountains. But then certainly stream bank erosion is a real big issue and other factors. But there appears to be a difference.
Okay.
And so one thing we're doing is we want to continue the sampling over the next year and see what does it look like over 12 months rather than, just 1 month with all the data we have right now. Thanks, Jordan.
Yeah, of course, thank you, appreciate it. And one thing I did forget to mention earlier is that stream bank erosion accounts for about 2/3 of the sediment in the West Fork of the White River. So it is a huge contributing factor to the sediment and has a large effect on water quality, which is why, we're kind of focused on looking at these priority areas for restoration, so that can make a huge difference in improving water quality as we do this project. All right.
Well, the one solution that the city could make would be to be able to afford to hire a few inspectors who would make sure the protective barriers were maintained on these construction sites. And that's, as this gentleman says, this has not been going on over the years. So the West Fork at times gets more sediment from Fayetteville than from all the rest of upstream.
Yeah, probably so.
And when there's heavy rain in Fayetteville, and maybe not as much or the same amount upstream on the West Fork, and you go out to the confluence, then you find the town branch will be running yellow, and the West Fork itself will be fairly clear. And there's not as much, I don't think there's as much ground clearing going on. There's some farms aren't even operating anymore. The pastures aren't as eroded because they're selling or they're holding the land just for potential development that they want to see. But it's the in-city development, particularly the lots that are cleared of all their trees, all their vegetation, black dirt in the prairie areas, which is everything, all the flat areas of Fayetteville are black dirt prairie. It's pretty deep soil. And once they clear that out and they put in red dirt on the surface, then runoff is much faster. And it's not just the huge developments that do it. Even the small infill in South Fayetteville, where they passed rules to allow up to 10 houses on 1 acre. And there's not a single house built on natural soil on those lots that are like that, a whole acre, a whole block. And the result is that people don't have any soil in which to grow a garden. And they go right into the madness of putting some topsoil on top of the gravel and the red dirt, and that little bit of soil on top will grow some plants. It may not be enough to maintain a tree once it gets big and wants its roots to go out. It may not be enough to grow all the perennials you'd like to have there, but you can put and take flowers, and it costs money and time, and they have a little grass that's non-native, and they have to mow it, this little strip around those houses. In the meantime, in the construction process for these, massive amounts of erosion occurs while they're denuded and the construction is going on. And later, the runoff, even though it's relatively clean, is much faster, which means bank erosion downstream. So it's a continuing thing that would require some more thought, more restrictions when the planning's done. For instance, maybe the city could give a reduction in taxation or something on land that does not allow a lot of runoff. In the planning process, if they know that, you keep that natural soil. The lowest corner of your lot should be the place there where your rain garden is. If you've got that lowest corner protected, then you can simply have native plants in there and not have to do any changing of soil. You don't have to do any engineering to utilize that natural part of that parcel of land. And it's the same with a small lot as a 20 or 30 acre lot.
Aubrey, can I try to summarize?
Yes, you may. Because I know you've heard it all before.
I put reduced impact fees for low impact development, because leaving the soil as it is to be native and, not coming in and raising it all up, but that would be a form of low impact development. I think that's on the books of Fayetteville as a practice they allow, but I'm not sure that they allow a reduced impact fee. So, we'll have to check in with them on that, but, reduced impact fees for low impact development. And so low impact development is to build and develop without changing the hydrology significantly, which happened in part of the West Fork. One thing that wasn't shown, but you can look it up at the Arkansas Watershed Information System, is that Town Branch, its land surface, that's what we're in Town Branch right now, is considerably less forest, less pasture, and more concrete. And then so some of the things that happen is you have more flooding, more erosion, and more pollution potential. And so low impact development is something I think the city's trying to work on, but feedback like this always helps. And so, that's kind of what we're after. I don't want to hijack what you're working on, Courtney, but I had a thought about this input. Come to your pointer. Sure. Trey? Sure. All right. So there's conservation, like the technical prairie. There are special issues like removing invasive plants and trash. Mount Kessler was an area of conservation that's already been conserved at the time of this map. What's not on this map, the West Fork wastewater treatment plant has been added to the map. Stream bank erosion down creek is a really big issue. I'm just kind of working my way upstream. Woolsey, the appliance dump, Flicker Falls to be conserved. Peaks Park, erosion has been addressed. Okay. Something neat throughout this process is that these little red dots